Hello there. Welcome back to another exploration of a forgotten Terminator, or somewhat forgotten, and that would be the T-1001. This Terminator can be very easily confused with the T-1000, of course, the two of them both being animatic polyalloy-based Terminators, which would realistically be some kind of nanotech, but that's out of the scope of this video, or speculation. She, for the sake of arguing, not constantly saying it, was played by Shirley Manson, the well-known at the time lead singer of Garbage, in what I believe was her first foray into the acting world in the Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles TV series. I previously did a video on Cromartie, who I still stand by as one of the most underrated and badass Terminators in the entire franchise, and he was actually a T-888 series, an advanced, more dangerous model than the T-800 or T-850 we see in the movies, although Terminator 3 did come after this chronologically and was also sort of disavowed in the continuity, again outside the continuity of this video. Before we get to talking about this character, this machine, and just exactly who and what it was, please like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. There's a whole back catalogue of various science fiction franchise explorations on this channel. Feel free to go and explore them. And with that out of the way, let's get started on Catherine Weaver. And that's where we're going to start. A lot of the backstory of this T-1001 is a little foggy, to say the least. We first get introduced to this T-1001 seemingly trying to actually assist in the creation of Skynet, almost like it's trying to ensure its own creator's creation. But it becomes murkier as it goes on. Catherine Weaver was a real person who the T-1001 adopted the visage of, seemingly killing her, as the T-1001 seemed to have no qualms about killing humans, even though, as I said, getting a little murky, it may not have actually been on the side of Skynet. It turns out that Zyracorp, which it killed Weaver to take control over, was developing advanced AI, and she took possession of a chess computer called the Turk and began to build on this technology to create a fully interactive, independent AI that may actually have been being developed to oppose Skynet. Certain comic book lore comes into play there as well, but it's never completely clear, as the show was unfortunately cancelled. But starting with Catherine Weaver's husband was also killed. Now there is a conversation that takes place with the T-1001, because we never actually meet Catherine Weaver. From the first moment we meet her, she's already the machine. Where it talks about whether the death of Weaver's husband, who died in a helicopter crash, was the result of human error or the machine. And I personally took away from this conversation that she was implying that it's the human's fault, never the machine's, and that probably she did kill him. And then obviously killed Catherine Weaver as well, and then became, weirdly, mother to her child and began to raise it, although the little girl could tell that her mother wasn't the same. But there was various little interplays here between the T-1001 and Weaver's daughter, where the Terminator was trying, probably for camouflage purposes at first, but there seemed to be some indication that it was genuinely trying to raise the child. It was actually trying to teach it and was learning much from the girl about humanity as anything else. But again, that role was never fully explored, and when you really put your headcanon into it, it starts to hurt your head when you think that she murdered that little girl's mother and probably father. It's highly unlikely she had them alive somewhere squirreled away, because of her willingness to simply kill anybody else that got in her way or was a witness. At various times throughout the series, we see her working behind the scenes to both oppose and assist the Connors, seemingly. To the point where she recruits the FBI agent Ellis, who's been hunting them down. She, again, develops the Turk into an AI model that may actually be intended to fight Skynet and assist humanity. And she hires Ellis to teach its morality after she initially hired a doctor, a therapist, who had actually worked with the Connors as well, with John Connor, to teach it morality, but then the machine killed him by accident. She also later uses Cromartie's body without the chip to give John Henry, as she named it, the Turk, previously, a physical interactive body in which it could explore its surroundings with. Now, there is also future scenes in this show where we see a future liquid metal Terminator aboard a submarine, and it kills some people aboard there, assumes the identity of the crew, and then disappears into the submarine's bowels and escapes it as the submarine is destroyed. It is implied, at least to me, very strongly, that this is the Catherine Weaver T-1001 just before it got sent back in time. This initially was a crate being delivered to John Connor by rogue Terminator elements. Again, never fully explained. It implies that Weaver, or the T-1001 rather, was sent back in time by John Connor and the Resistance to do something. Maybe to create John Henry. Maybe to do something else. The backstory and more fleshed out role of the character was going to be pursued in the following season, which unfortunately again never happened. Throughout the show, though, she does actually demonstrate her abilities, which are very similar to those of the T-1000, quite frankly, in that she can assume a liquid state, she can shapeshift into different people, which she does at various times. At one time becoming a girl at a bar in order to get close to a guy so she can kill him. Other times shapeshifting into a urinal, which is a really cool scene. And actually, I believe the first time we realize what she is. She also is more prone to simply stabbing people with a spike from her finger than her whole arm, but she's also seen to be pretty indestructible. She turns into a solid piece of metal to protect John Connor at one point. Again, implying very strongly towards the end that she's actually on their side, otherwise she would have simply tried to kill him. One area where she seems inferior to the T-1000, which may actually have been a result of reprogramming by the Resistance, possibly, simply not able to match Skynet's finesse, was that the T-1000 was able to exhibit more human traits. Smile, be charming, show compassion and empathy even though it was faking it, and the T-1000 more seamlessly blended in to the humans and people around it, whereas she very much struggles with that side. It could be constant exposure, constantly being around people, and it's more obvious that she's a little off, but from the outset, every time she meets someone, she is very standoffish and difficult and stubborn and driven, almost stereotypically CEO in the workplace kind of level, which you can dismiss it as initially. But the more you get to know her, the more you realize she really struggles with the nuances of the human condition, something the T-1000 did not struggle with. Exactly why that is, again, probably would have been explored, but it was not. For me, it's simply an error with the programming. It is a different model to the T-1000. It is the T-1001, but you would think by implication that would mean it would be more advanced. Maybe Skynet simply thought that those assets were not necessary. Maybe it was a flawed prototype. Who knows? We don't really. Other than that, though, her abilities, again, mimicked very closely those of the T-1000. One major difference and serious upgrade was she was able to detach parts of herself to work as independent, separate entities, for lack of a better term. For example, she had an eel in a tank in her office that was actually her, and she was stood in the same room as it, so it's like she detached her arm, it had turned into an eel and mimicked the behavior of an eel. So she was actually able to be multiple opponents at once, which is quite fascinating, as we see, although parts of a T-1000 when detached sort of stay the same. If it's turned its arm into a blade or a hook, it stays a blade or a hook until the T-1000 arrives. She's also able to detach parts of herself and track it, things like that. She's a very advanced version of the T-1000, but in the programming level, in my opinion, she did seem to suffer some weaknesses. But what do you guys think of her? I mean, was she really a more advanced model? Was she actually in the past to help the Resistance? Or was there an ulterior motive? Was it a long game being played by Skynet to actually undermine the Resistance? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.